So, my name is Tracy Bingaman. I'm a physician associate by training. I am now the CEO and creative director of my own company. I'm the founder of the Clinician Entrepreneur Collective and the host of the PA is in podcast, one of the top podcasts in the world for PAs. And today we're going to talk about how you can stop selling and really stop feeling like a salesperson who's selling and start prescribing. If instead of a sales call, we thought about these conversations with potential clients as a consultation, just like we would have inside an exam room where we try to come up with a diagnosis and a treatment plan. And inside of that sales call, if we tried to identify, does this person have the problem that my product solves? And to give them a plan to help to solve that problem. So we're going to walk through the informed consent framework for client-centered sales conversations, just like we have patient-centered treatment plan conversations when we're talking to our patients about their treatment plans. So most entrepreneurs really hate selling, right? Sales is a 4-letter word inside of running a business, and it makes us feel uncomfortable because we feel like we've never had to sell to anyone ever before. But it turns out that clinicians are selling all day, every day, right? We're selling the potential for us needing a new team member because our team has outstretched, the demand of our team has outstretched our current capacity. We are selling to our manager that we need another nurse on staff. We are selling ourselves as a potential department leader. And most importantly, and the thing we're going to talk about most today as we talk about sales as a client-centered conversation, is that we sell a diagnosis and a treatment plan, and we get our patients to buy into that plan, right? We need patients to participate in their own care. And in order to do that, we need to sell them on the idea that they need labs and a colonoscopy and a mammogram, and they need to do the prep for the colonoscopy, and they're going to need another one in 5 years. And all of those things are well within our purview of saying, hey, here's the problem that you have. Here's the age that you are. Here are the screening recommendations. Here are the labs, workup, referral. These are the things that I need you to do in order to participate in your care and healing. So we are actually really good at having sales conversations. We just see them as conversations where we're getting our patients to buy into the treatment plan that we are outlining for them. So tonight we're going to change sales. It's no longer going to be a 4-letter word. It's going to be something that is exciting to us and something that we look forward to doing as a part of these conversations where we are using our existing clinical skill set in order to sell strategically, intentionally, and in a way that aligns with our values. So as it turns out, you likely don't actually hate selling. You just don't feel super confident doing it, and you probably hate feeling like a sketchy, sleazy, used car salesperson. When we get in these sales conversations, we forget ourselves. We don't have a framework for the conversation, and we feel like we have to use strange and manipulative tactics in order to get people to buy our products, and that is actually not true at all. But that does happen. If you open up your LinkedIn inbox or get on a call with someone, you will have a lot of conversations where people are trying to sell you something before they even realized if that is the right product for you. So anytime that you've accepted a LinkedIn connection and immediately you see that there is a message in your inbox and they're saying, hey, I see that you do this. Most people who do that struggle with this. I have 2 spots left in my VIP coaching program. It closes today in 7 minutes. And unless you call me back and unless you take one of those slots, you're going to miss out. And we only open the doors once every 6 months, right? It's like a poster. It's like a package of all the things that you do not want to be when you're selling. It's without a warm introduction. It's without identifying if the person has the problem that your product solves. It's without asking them if they're open to having a conversation about this or if this is something they're trying to change about their life or business. And then it's like, here, urgency, urgency, you must, if not, everything's going to explode and you're going to miss this opportunity. It's a limited time, limited edition opportunity. When I was a brand new baby entrepreneur. I had just started my business. I was getting my podcast off the ground. It was mid-pandemic, early in 2020. And I connected with some other mompreneurs. So a couple of other entrepreneurs who were guests on my podcast. We had this nice sort of cordial professional relationship. And then I got on a call with them, like following up, hey, your episode is live. It was really great to work with you. You guys were amazing guests. I'm very new at this. You made this feel so easy. And on that call, I ended up in this conversation where they kept asking these questions like, hey, are you looking to do more sales? Are you looking to build a program? Are you looking to do these things? Is now a good time to talk? Are you the primary decision maker in your business? And it was sort of these like rapid fire questions. And I was like, yes, absolutely. Like, I do want to build a program. Yes, I would like to make more sales. I've made 0 sales so far. That sounds amazing. And at the end of that call, I ended up getting talked into this $6,000 sales program that was like a done for you bundle for new mompreneurs who needed to find their niche and identify their target audience and, you know, this guaranteed ROI. And it really was premature for me in terms of like, I didn't have a product to sell. I didn't know who I was selling to. And it really, the whole experience made me feel like I didn't have a choice, right? Like this was forced upon me. Like, you know, of course I could have said no, but the way that it was these manipulative sales tactics where you feel like you're really being sold to, where you have the hard sell, where there's only a couple of seats left, where the doors are closing, right? And it just made me feel really crappy, right? But I get in the program and I'm like, listen, if I paid for this thing, I'm going to do it. And week 3 of the program is them talking about how to sell. And talking about the psychology of if you get a patient on a call or you get a person on a call and you get them to say yes and yes and yes and yes, that it primes them for when you make that offer that they're already ready. They've already said all of these yeses, almost like you're just hypnotizing them into saying yes and yes and yes again until they say yes to your program. And as a student in that program, I swore I never want to use a tactic that then makes me slightly uncomfortable to share with someone, right? I always want sales conversations to be a conversation where I am presenting something and offering people an opportunity to solve a problem that they have, but that everyone gets to choose. Just like your patient gets to choose whether or not they are going to pursue the treatment plan that you've outlined, everyone gets to choose of their own free will without feeling manipulated or like they were sold to. They get to choose whether or not they want to engage with your services. And we've all had those experiences where the sales call felt kind of yicky, right? So we need to reframe this and get out of that sales as a manipulation tactic kind of mindset. Absolutely, there will be salespeople out there in the world who are just super manipulative and make you feel uncomfortable, who have aggressive sales tactics. But you do not have to be one of those people. I want sales to feel like an informed consent conversation. We're going to break that down into a couple of parts and talk about what that actually entails when you actually get on the phone with something. But does anyone here have a Costco membership? Is anyone also bought into like needs 12 gallons of ketchup at any given time? So like best to have it on hand. Good. Okay. So when you walk into Costco, you know, everyone's going for the chicken, which is in the far, far back, right? And in order to get to the chicken, you have to walk by like cell phones, diamond rings, like plasma TVs, a blender that you don't need, like some sort of a battery charging garage storage system that my husband always thinks that we need to bring home. But when we go to Costco, we hang a right to avoid the aggressive cell phone people. You know who I'm talking about, right? Like near the TVs, but like before the blender, there's a group of people who are selling cell phones. And you don't want to make eye contact, right? You want to just sort of keep on keeping on, because if you make eye contact, then they know you're alive and they're going to immediately ask you about your cell phone carrier, and you have to be like, no, sorry, don't speak English. Like, I don't have a phone. I don't know. I just got it. And then you have to disengage so that you can get to the bananas or the chicken, right? To what you're headed to. So that's like one attempt at sales, right? They're just like, people. And as soon as you walk by and then they get you in your clutches, you feel like you can't get out. And then you get to the food section and you go past the cheese and you get your chicken, and then you swing around to the other side. And there's these delightful little old ladies at my Costco with hairnets and free samples, right? And they are not on commission. These ladies are just trying to feed the world their hummus, right? And they are just like, come or don't come. Have some hummus or don't have hummus. There's pita. Come on over. You know, there's a nice sign with the allergen. They are not trying to sell you anything. They are just there and they have a product. And if it solves your problem, I was actually in the market for a new hummus, or my toddler is hungry, right? Both of those problems can be solved by a free sample at Costco. And you walk up to them and you get one and you don't in any way feel pressured, right? This thing is on sale, it's for sale. They're not selling to you, right? They're just serving you these free samples, and then it is entirely up to you of your own accord to decide if the hummus is delicious or not and if you want to buy it. We want to be the lady at Costco with the free sample, right? We want to put content out into the world so that people know what we're about and that we offer value. We don't ever want people to feel like they don't want to make direct eye contact with us because we're going to make them uncomfortable, right? It's a conversation that you want to have where you're not pressuring people, where you're there and you're like, hey, I love talking about this thing. You can't shut me up about it, right? It is the thing that I like to talk about. It's the problem that I solve. It's the thing I like to teach on. So if you're willing to have a conversation with me about it, I would love to hear about your frustrations. I would love to hear what you figured out about this thing. And we're going to break that conversation down in just a minute in terms of the different parts of a sales conversation. So sales is the heart of your business. There is absolutely a way that you can do this where it feels aligned, where it is moral and ethical and you don't feel sleazy and you don't have to use any sales tactics that make you feel like those predatory cell phone people at Costco. So a moment for the difference between marketing and sales, because this is something early on in my business. I thought it was just like, we market so we can sell. And I really didn't have an understanding of what the difference between marketing and sales is. So marketing is any messaging you're putting out in the world for people to know what you are about, who you serve, and what you do. So posts, videos, sound bites, billboards, public health campaigns, any ads that you are running, any content that you're putting out there in the world, that messaging garners the interest. It helps to establish you as the go-to person for X, Y, or Z, and it just makes people know what you are about. Sales is a dynamic conversation like an informed consent that converts that interest into paid clients, which generates income. Marketing is something that you can prep in advance and put out in the world. You can have different campaigns and things that you're talking about. Sales is a dynamic back and forth. It doesn't have to be a one-on-one conversation, right? It can be over text messages. It can be in a LinkedIn DM. It can be that people are replying to emails that you're sending out as a part of a sales funnel. It doesn't necessarily have to be a call, but the single best way to get good at sales is to get on the phone with people who may or may not be in the business of buying your product. So there are two parts of every sales conversation, just like there are two parts to every history and physical, to every encounter that you have with a patient. And that is the consult, where you identify what is the diagnosis and you put together a treatment plan. And then there is the informed consent. Because even if your plan is rest and fluids and this is viral and no, you don't need antibiotics, you need the patient to buy into that plan. Otherwise, they leave your office and drive to the first urgent care and get their antibiotics from someone else. So you need them to buy in. You need to do that informed consent. So there are two parts: the consult, where you identify the diagnosis and the treatment plan, and then there's the informed consent, where they buy into the treatment plan. So first up, the consult. The very first thing that you want to do as a part of any sales conversation is to identify, does the person that you are talking to have the problem that you solve with your product? If you cannot answer that at the end of your sales call, you don't know if you're supposed to sell to this person or not. You have a product that solves a very specific problem. I run a collective called the Clinician Entrepreneur Collective, where we teach clinicians business skills. And we talk about how to translate the knowledge that you have in terms of practicing clinical medicine into running a business. And that so many of those skills translate, but only if you have the right interpreter and only if you know how to translate those skills. So when I'm on a sales call with someone who is a clinician, I want to know, do they have entrepreneurial aspirations? Are they a little overwhelmed? Are they running a business that's not generating revenue? Do they not exactly know what to do with their time? Are they accidentally running a hobby instead of a business? Because if they're burned out and they're a clinician who is so frustrated with bedside medicine that they want to quit and become a librarian, I can't help them. But if they're a clinician who is really burned out and frustrated and thinks the way that we're delivering healthcare absolutely sucks, because it does, and they have an idea of how to do it better, and they want to go out on their own and start something, that is a person that I can help. But if I try to sell to the clinician with aspirations of library science, I'm going to look a little silly and it's not going to land with the person that I'm talking to. So the number one thing that you want to do is identify, do they have the problem that my product solves? And if they do, then you invite them into a sales conversation with an informed consent and a story. And if they don't, you thank them for their time and tell them that they would make an amazing librarian, right? Like they love books and they love kids and they love story time, and that's amazing. You don't try to sell to that person. The worst thing that you can do as an entrepreneur is to try to sell to someone who doesn't have the problem that you solve. So in order to do this, you have to be really clear about the problem that you solve and really, really crisp in order to identify, does this person have this problem? Just like when you're seeing a patient, you need to know what is their diagnosis before you can formulate a treatment. I'm going to tell you about a surgeon that I maybe or maybe didn't used to work with. Names have been changed to protect the innocent or the guilty, depending on how you see surgeons and their personalities in general. So this is a surgeon that I may or may not have worked with previously. We'll call them Dr. McFlurry. They were like a little bit of a tornado, right? Like when the nurses saw them coming into the unit, they were like, they're coming, right? They're coming, like get out of the way. You know, the general surgeon is coming. So Dr. McFlurry is on call and the emergency department calls, Dr. McSteamy calls from the emergency department and says, hey, I've got a consult for you. I've got an appendicitis in room 1, you know, CAT scan's positive, white count's elevated, right lower quadrant pain, you know, gives the whole sign out. You know, Dr. McFlurry drives to the ER, examines the patient, introduces herself, says, hey, I'm the general surgeon. You've got appendicitis. The plan is to take your appendix out. Other options do include, you know, watchful waiting with antibiotics, but you have this fecalith. I think we need to take this out today. You know, do you consent to that? Risks of surgery are this, alternatives are this. You know, here's what's going to happen. We're going to get you upstairs. Anesthesia's going to see you and sign some paperwork. If everything goes well, we're going to get you home by dinner. Nothing to eat or drink right now because we're going to the OR. Very succinct, Dr. McFlurry does her job, gets the consent signed, walks out, gives it to the nurse, says to the nurse, chlorhexidine bath or get her upstairs, right? Great. But that was in room 1. And then while Dr. McFlurry's in the ER, she goes looking for more business, right? Because like, who doesn't want to do a second appendectomy? You already drove all the way to the hospital. So she knock and walks into room 2 in the ER. And she says, hi, I'm Dr. McFlurry. It's so nice to meet you. And the patient in the bed is like a little confused because they didn't tell her they were calling a surgeon, right? And she says, what are you here for? And Betty is in bed. She's an 82-year-old lady. She comes from the nursing home. She's like, I fell down. I think I broke my hip. I'm here to get my hip fixed, I guess. And Dr. McFlurry says, well, do you want your appendix out? Because I can take your appendix out. I'm a general surgeon. I'm amazing with appendixes. I take them out all day, every day. I'm so good at it. And Betty says, interesting, because I think I had my appendix out when Ronald Reagan was president. So it doesn't seem like you can help me, right? I don't have an appendix. It's been in the bucket for 30 years. And she goes, oh, thanks for your time. And she walks next door and she knocks on the door. And there's a 2-year-old little kid who fell down and got a facial laceration. And the parents are there and she's like, hey, I'm the surgeon, just checking in. Do you want to get his appendix out while you're here? And the parents are like, no, we were just hoping someone was going to fix his lip while we were here. I don't think his appendix needs to come out. Which is ridiculous, right? Like if you had a surgeon who did this, you would be like, stop going in rooms. Those people don't need their appendix out. We don't need a general surgery consult on everyone in the ER. Which I tell you because you have to stop trying to sell to everyone and start trying to only get on calls with people who have the problem that you solve. And even all of those people will not have the problem that you solve or will not be ready to take action about the fact that they have the problem that you solve. But the more you can do to eliminate and screen for people who are not your ideal clients, the more often you can get on the call with the right person who's likely like right lower quadrant pain, abdominal pain, right age, positive CAT scan. Like that's someone to have a conversation with about appendectomy. But the other 3 people in the ER, we don't need to go knocking on doors asking if anyone else needs their appendix out, which is what those people are doing in your LinkedIn inbox when they say, hey, I've got something for you. So do not pass go, do not collect $200 until you've identified if the person on the phone with you, the person on the Zoom with you, if the person in your messaging with, if the person you're texting or emailing back and forth with has the problem that your product solves. And when they do, and you diagnose them as having the problem, then you invite them into a story about themselves. right? We don't want this to be about us. We love to talk about ourselves and the fact that our grandfather founded the company and we've been doing this since 2000 and blah, blah, blah. And we're so amazing and we're the best ever. But actually, the story has to be about the customer. Just like the treatment plan has to be about the patient. There are 5 elements of every informed consent, and you know them because you do them day in and day out when you're practicing medicine. There's a diagnosis, a treatment, a specific plan or steps that people have to take. There's risks, benefits, and alternatives. And then there's a call to action, right? You ask them, are you willing to get your labs drawn? Are you okay with having a mammogram? Are you going to schedule your consultation for your colonoscopy, right? You call them to action. And in every sales discussion, it's going to sound a lot alike. Do they have the problem? Diagnose them with the problem, right? Or get them to diagnose themselves. What is the product or the treatment plan? What are the plan? What are the steps that they have to take? What are the stakes? Positive stakes, what happens when they engage with your product and things improve? Negative stakes, what are the alternatives or the risks of not acting? And then you're going to call them to action. You are doing this all day, every day inside of your exam rooms. I'm just asking you to do it inside of a sales conversation instead. So first up, the problem. Diagnose them with the problem. You must start with the problem, and you cannot proceed to any other elements of the story if they are not the person that has the problem. It's absolutely okay to say, hey, it sounds like you actually need so-and-so who I know, or I don't think I'm the right person to help you, or do you actually know anyone who isn't thinking of quitting clinical medicine so that they can go into library sciences, but rather is frustrated and wants to open a bookstore, right? So like, do you know anyone who has the problem that I solve? Because if you do, I would love for you to connect me to them, right? You don't have to sell to everyone. You don't have to sell to them if they don't have the problem. And then when you diagnose someone with a problem, you tell them, here's the treatment plan. Here's what we do for strep throat, right? Here's what we do when someone has this problem. And you want to position your product not as the thing that you are selling. So I don't sell the Clinician Entrepreneur Collective, right? I sell confidence in running a business as a clinician. I sell the ability to talk the language of investors, to, know how to run a corporation as a clinician. So people buy solutions, they buy feelings, they buy outcomes, not products. So think about that in terms of what you're selling, in terms of positioning it so that it helps them to see what's possible and to imagine the life that exists for them on the other side of engaging with your product. And then a simple 3-step plan. First, you do this, we get you all signed up. Second, you go here and watch the introductory video. Third, you appreciate the outcome or you live happily ever after, right? We want to make it so simple that their brain can see them engaging with the product, can see them on the other side. Just like we don't tell patients who need a screening colonoscopy, okay, we're going to have you call Dr. Smith's office. It is so hard to get in there. It's probably going to take you 20 months to get in. And then when you see him, he's going to run behind and his breath smells terrible and he's just got no bedside manner, but he's actually really good at colonoscopy. And then they're going to make you poop your brains out for days and days and days beforehand. And then and only then are they going to check and see if you have colon cancer. We say, it's super easy. My office is going to call them and tell them that you're going to call. His nurse's name is Betty. Ask for Betty, right? Call the office, ask for Betty. She's going to get you in right away. And the prep, it's actually not as bad as you think. And then once you get it done, if you have no polyps, you don't have to go back for 10 years, right? It's the same sequence of events, but we're making it seem easier with just 3 steps so people can understand, like call, go, prep, have a good life, sans colon cancer until we meet again. And then the stakes. So just like when we say you're getting your appendix out and the risks are bleeding, bruising, injury to surrounding tissues, death, all of those things. And the benefits are, well, we cure your sepsis and your appendix is in the bucket and we send it to the pathologist and we close you up and we get you home and your abdominal pain gets better. And then alternatives. surgery is first line for this, but if you really are scared of surgery and you want to do conservative management with IV fluids and antibiotics, that option is available to you. What happens if they do nothing? Typically, if you're selling a program or a service, right, it's like you keep troubleshooting, you keep trying to DIY, you keep Googling this, you keep trying to put together a plan on your own, or you can join a group of people who are doing it. Or you can get this system or these courses or these videos or this thing that's going to make it faster and more cost effective and a better use of your time and energy. So what happens if they act? Be really clear about the benefits and the alternatives here. And the call to action is something that so many entrepreneurs say, so what do you think? Do you want to learn more? That we're like passively asking. Like, we're not asking patients like, what do you think? Lisinopril or no? Appendectomy or no? We're saying, do you consent to getting your appendix out today? We're asking a direct question and waiting, sometimes very uncomfortably, but waiting and getting comfortable with the silence of them being able to answer and accept your invitation to join us. This is the single line as a part of this discussion that you should have memorized. The question that you're going to ask, you should practice it. Because this is the part where we stumble. We have this great conversation. We diagnose them with the problem. We talk about the product. We tell them how it's going to change their life. And then we say, thank you so much for your time. Or we sort of forget to ask them. I used to forget to ask people because I was nervous they would say no. Because if I got off the call without asking them, I had the plausible deniability of like, maybe they want to. But when you ask and you give them the opportunity to say, yes, I would like to join you, or no, this isn't for me at this time, or it's not in the budget, then we know for sure, right? Up until then, we're sort of flirting. No one has asked anyone out. There's this element of plausible deniability in the sales conversation. If you have a website, there should be big buttons that are a different color. Join now, start today, sign up here, right? So that's really clear what they're going to do. Make it as simple and straightforward as possible. I want to tell you a story. I'm going to take a drink here as we're getting going. So once upon a time, on a recreational baseball diamond, in an adult kickball league, circa 2012, a young, energetic PA student said yes to an invitation to play kickball. And she met a boy at that kickball league. And things didn't work out just then, but about 6 months later, she walked into a volleyball court, and there was that same boy standing across the net, right? And she was like, I guess the universe puts us together again. And they start talking and they start commuting to volleyball together and they start getting ice cream and they start spending time together. But that whole time is sort of like that plausible deniability, right? Is there some flirting happening? Sure. Have we committed to anything? No. This is just what friends do, right? We just ride together. We just spend, a lot of time together. Who knows, right? It could be anything. And then one day that boy says to her, hey, I'd like to take you to dinner. Because she was 22 and she knew everything, she said, oh, thanks, but no thanks. And then he said again, I really think we should go out to dinner. I think we should go on a date, like an actual date. And she was like, no, thank you. And then he was like, I would like to take you to dinner on Thursday at this specific restaurant at 7:30. I'll pick you up at 7. And she said, fine, but do not get attached because I'm not staying here after I graduate from PA school. So I'm just doing this because you're offering to buy me dinner. But unless the person asks and gives you the opportunity to say yes or no, there's this element of plausible deniability. I'm thinking about it. You're thinking about it. No one has really engaged. No one has really been vulnerable and asked. This happens in sales all the time. We told them all about the product. We emailed them. We marketed the product. And then we never said, do you want this? I made it. Do you want it? Would it help you? Do you want to join us? Do you want to buy it? And my whole life changed because finally my husband refused to stop asking me out and I eventually said yes. But if you don't ask and ask again. And when I say ask and ask again, I'm not saying like you're cold messaging someone on LinkedIn and they haven't gotten back to you and you're like, do you want to buy it? Do you want to buy it? Do you want to buy it? It's this invitation where you're saying, would you like to do this thing? And then people get to choose on their own, just like they get to choose to engage with your treatment plan or not. You already know how to do this. You've had thousands, and depending on how long you've been practicing medicine, potentially tens of thousands of informed consent conversations with patients. Getting your patients to buy into your treatment plan is a skill that you do not learn in school, right? You have to convince the urgent care patient with chest pain that they need to go to the ER. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. You have to convince the patient who hates everything about the healthcare system and thinks we are only in this to get their money, that they need to get labs so that you can track how their chronic kidney disease is doing. And you have developed a skill set. And it's not manipulative. You're not talking them into doing something that's inappropriate or not standard of care. You're getting them to buy into their own care, their own management of their disease, their own acute referral, right? We are talking about applying those skills that you already have inside of the exam room that you are using for an informed consent conversation with your patients into a sales conversation with clients. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say, would you like to join us inside of the Clinician Entrepreneur Collective? Because we've got to take our own advice here. If you guys want to learn more about that, I'd be thrilled to talk to you about it. It is something that I'm so excited about. Clinicians can do anything, and there is no one who is better positioned to rewrite the way that we are delivering care and the way that we are delivering education in terms of technology and in terms of taking care of patients. So important. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me and my background so you know who your guide is along the way. And then we will have certainly time for questions or things to discuss if anyone has anything to add. So this is me. I am a speaker. I'm a clinician. I'm a business consultant. I help everyone in healthcare who will let me turn their expertise into income, impact, and ultimately work optional financial freedom. After burning out in bedside medicine big time, I pivoted and launched a podcast. I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. It really started as a creative outlet and an endeavor that was a lifeline in a really dark period of burnout. It's now the top podcast for PAs worldwide, and each week we help thousands of clinicians to reimagine what's possible. We are doing an entrepreneurial series right now. It is so much fun. I have the distinct pleasure and honor to help clinicians who feel overworked and underpaid, which is everyone who I've ever met who works in clinical medicine, who feel stuck in a system that doesn't serve them or care for their patients well. I teach those people how to translate and leverage their existing clinical skills in order to build businesses, create income, and reclaim their flexibility. Ultimately, I'm on a mission to help humans in healthcare unlock the gilded cage of clinical practice by starting, running, and scaling businesses that pay them more than their clinical work ever could. And yes, I know that is a tall order. Here is all of my information. There is the waitlist for Clinician Entrepreneur Collective. Our next cohort starts June 1st. So if you'd like to join us, we would love to have you there. I also didn't link the podcast here, but if you search the PA as in anywhere where podcasts are found, you can hear more of some of this and talking about clinical skills as it applies to business. That is my cell phone. Call me, text me. I don't know if you guys are of the age where Kim Possible used to say, call me, beep me if you want to reach me. I no longer have a beeper, but I always have my cell phone. So I would love to start a conversation about this, to talk about sales and what you guys have been struggling with. If there is any questions in the chat, I can't see the chat, but if someone reads them, I'm happy to answer any questions that are in the chat. Patrick, I see you're unmuting yourself, but I cannot hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now.
You can hear me now.
Yeah.
Okay, I was on speakerphone. So I just joined in about 10, 15 minutes ago. Thank you. Sorry I missed. I'll definitely be watching the replay. But yeah, this is a very important topic. And we all have either a product or a service, or we want to have a product or service. And in my experience over the last, 15 years with medical devices and clinical medicine, trying to sell that, and then with the laceration course and now with ShiftChange, having an idea is the easy part. Selling
Mm-hmm.
is hard. Selling is so hard. So no, I really appreciate you tackling this and bringing it up and giving people the introduction.
Any questions from anybody? Oh, okay. This is a good question. Do you recommend making posts on LinkedIn about the stakes, such as what's happening if they do nothing and what's happening if they act? Absolutely. So, if you think about the informed consent sales framework, which we could go back to the slide, but you guys will have access to these and or watch the replay. In every post, the goal is not to have it be like every single element of those, right? But if you can always present the problem and then have 1 to 3 of the other things, they don't all have to be direct sales pitches in terms of like, buy now, buy now, buy now, buy now, but rather just like, hey, this is a problem. And like entrepreneurship is lonely. And the solution to that is joining ShiftChange, right? Like if you are looking to rub elbows with other entrepreneurs, there's no better place to do it, right? And just like, here's what's happening here. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're working on. Painting the stakes is unbelievably motivating. And if you really have a good handle on who you serve and what they're struggling with, it's pretty easy to do that. Like oftentimes, like I will have a sales call and then I will write a post about what I'm trying to sell because it's super fresh in your mind. And you're like, yes, everyone does complain about that, right? Everyone does complain about the fact that like you get to a point in healthcare where you like reach a point where they don't pay you more. And that is very frustrating. And that ceiling doesn't exist in entrepreneurship, right? And so highlighting some of those things or seeing a pattern where you're like, hey, I just saw the third post this week about X, Y, or Z. And like, here's how this helps. That absolutely painting the stakes. You can never paint the stakes too clearly or too often because oftentimes people know, right? They're like, I know if I just keep going, I'll get there, but it'll take forever, or I won't get there, or like, I don't know if I'll get there. But sometimes when you say it, it helps them to realize, like, yeah, there is an option that is better than the way that I've been doing things in the past.
Tracy, how do you maximize leveraging connections you've made?
I think this is something I could do better, honestly. I am historically very bad about asking for help. Like I had a call with Patrick today and he was like, "What can I do to help you?" And I was like, "I don't know." And instead of saying like I need referrals for specific people who could sponsor the podcast, right? Like that's actually what I need. But like when people ask, I'm like, "I don't know, I think things are fine," right? So, I sometimes think about going back through your Rolodex, right? And saying like, "Who did I talk to about this last year?" And so I have a very detailed calendar. So I'm like, if you look back 6 months and you're like, oh yeah, I did have a call with that person and they either didn't buy or, went a different direction, like follow up with them. Like, how's it going? Hey, I was just thinking of you and I wanted to know how you're doing. And also to do that from the heart of, oh, I'm not like, oh, I'm hoping to make a sale. Like I, like talked to David 6 months ago. He didn't buy. Like here I am back again. But rather, hey, you decided to do that on your own. How did the launch go? How are the things? And just sort of like cultivating a relationship ongoing and making it feel much less transactional has been fruitful. I also find that to be exhausting. So I feel like I can only maintain so many of those relationships because I'm not that nice and I don't want that many connections. I think there's more. Oh, here. Yes, absolutely, Patrick. Telling the story. If people hear your story, they will buy your product. Be genuine and authentic. Yes. Keeping a Rolodex of contacts is so, so important. Patrick, I can hear something, but I can't hear you.
All right. How about now?
Yep, that's
Is
better.
that any better?
Yep.
Okay. Lon Stroshine taught me that. And I'd gotten into a habit of just selling and posting everything on LinkedIn about, hey, you need to buy the laceration course or you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I guess it was about 2 years ago, right before my 50th birthday, I just started telling my story on LinkedIn. And that's when people started to reach out to me. And things really took a turn for the better. And Lon had sent me a text. He's like, when you start telling your story, people want to buy what you're selling because they want your story as well. They want that for themselves. And really, I think just showing up, being authentic, and again, just telling what what part of your journey led you to where you are now,
Mm,
and making yourself available, having a calendar link is incredibly important, in my opinion, so that if somebody wants to reach you, you can avoid the back and forth, 7 emails just to be able to set up a 30-minute phone call. But if there's somebody that you want to speak with, hey, I saw that post that you made. Man, that really hit home. Thanks so much for sharing. I'd love to speak with you. Here's my calendar link. I've found that to be very helpful with reducing the friction of making those connections.
yeah. I have also recently stopped being quite so precious about my cell phone number. Like, I don't know why I was like
Mm-hmm.
guarding it so closely, like it was like some best kept secret. And when I stopped doing that and I started just like, not to everyone, like, right, but like on LinkedIn, you're going back and forth and you're like, I don't check my own email. So I'm like, email's not a good way. It's a good way to get a hold of our company, but it's not a great way to get a hold of me. So if I'm like, hey, call me anytime after noon today. And then I'm just like, then they can or not. Like, then they can. Then I don't, if they care, they will. And if they don't, like, I guess it wasn't meant to be. Like, just call me, text me is now a good time, like, getting on the phone. The other thing that's helped me recently that feels like I've gotten a lot more traction is like, I used to think I had to be in this room with this lighting, with this on in order to, like, do business, which is like not how I live. Like we have 5 kids going in 72 different directions. So like the other day I made a sale in the outfield of a little league game, like pacing back and forth, like hoping my kid didn't come up to bat while I was on the phone. Is that a demonstration of great boundaries? No, probably not. Is it also like that if you can do it on the fly and you can have a conversation with someone about anything anywhere, like yeah, it's probably better to do it without notes. Like it's probably better to do it without like slides and to feel like super pressured and you're just like, "Hey, I know you're busy. I know I'm busy. Let's have a 20-minute conversation to figure out if this is a good fit for you." It doesn't have to be so precious and so perfect. Like just do it. Just do it.
Great point. And another thing I think that you were kind of talking about a few minutes ago is with the work that I do with EB medicine and my laceration stuff. I think as clinicians, and especially in the emergency department and urgent care, we are accustomed to getting an answer immediately. And when you're trying to sell something, that is not how it works. And depending on what it is that you're selling or you're offering, sometimes the sales cycle can be 6 months, sometimes it can be 2 to 3 years. And the work that we do with urgent care organizations and companies, we might reach out, have a conversation, do a discovery call, they get a trial access, and then they say, no, they're not interested. That used to hurt my feelings and would take it very, very personally. And I've learned that just because somebody says no does not mean it's a no forever. And you
Mm-hmm.
can always circle back. Hey, I was just thinking about you. I know we talked about 6 months ago and just wanted to see if anything's changed or if there's anything I can do to help you. And I think if people hear that, oh, he's not trying to sell me something. He knows that we said no, but he's just reaching out to check in and see if there's anything I can do, he can do to help. That goes a long way. So, don't be discouraged when somebody tells you no. No is not always a definitive eternal answer.
Yeah. It's also not a reflection of you or your product, right? It's sometimes just not the right fit
Absolutely.
for them.
Yep.
Like if you offer a patient appendectomy and they decide to go to some other hospital, like I work with surgeons, they're going to be butthurt about that. But it's not that like you're not good at surgery, right? Like it's like, oh, my uncle is a surgeon down the road. I'm going to go with him. Great. Let him take it out. As long as it goes in the bucket, right? You can't go wrong. It's not that you're personally, I'm not offended when patients don't follow my advice, right? I'm like, that's on them. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for coming. If you have any other questions, if you want to have a call, call me or text me. I'll be at Little League until October, so you know where to find me.